Hello friends, let's learn about the additional reporting techniques. Our last unit of the course report design 2. So in this video we will learn about the additional reporting techniques which are required while developing the web intelligence documents. So the first thing is let's take up about the lesson 1 implementing data tracking. So what is data tracking? So with the web intelligence data tracking, we can identify the data changes quickly and focus on the most relevant data that when we analyze the changes. So whenever we need to analyze any data, then we can use this functionality or the technique for data tracking, and then we can analyze the data. So this is useful to highlight the values that have changed since the previous refresh or any level of aggregation. So suppose there is any change in the data since last refresh and we just wanted to analyze the data, means why what the data has been changed. So in that thing means we can use data tracking. So the document with the data tracking activated retrieves two macro cubes, one for reference data set and one for current data set. So as data tracking is activated, whenever the data tracking is activated, there the data of the reference change will be held in another macro cube, and for the current data, it will be held in a current data set. The document compares data in two macro cubes and highlights the changes according to the formatting that is defined for the changes. So whatever the changes are happened in the current and reference data, so that will be highlighted based on the formatting. We can customize this formatting, means based on our requirement how we wanted to look this. Then this contains twice as much data as a document for which data tracking is not active. So whenever the data tracking is active, the data which is holded in the document will be twice as compared to the data tracking where it is not active. Okay, so while data tracking means what actions will clear the store data. So as data tracking is activated and there will be two macro cubes holding the data. So which actions can clear the store data? So the first thing is drilling out of scope, means if we are drilling out of the scope, then it can clear the data using query drill. Query drill is a technique that we are using. So at that time also this data will be clear. Deleting a query, if someone is getting means deleting the data or report designer, then the data will be cleared. Purging the documents, so data if the data is purged from the document, then that at that time as well the data will be cleared. And modifying the SQL structure query language, that is SQL generated by data provided, including modifying security types. So if someone is modifying that query, then also it will clear the data. Okay, so the understanding of data changes allows us to make appropriate and timely action and improve positive situations, or to prevent remedy negative actions. So this is useful. Data tracking is useful for making appropriate and timely decisions for the business. Webi allows to track and highlight data changes that identify significant changes quickly, disregard relevant data, and focus your analysis on the root cause of the changes. So what are the type of data changes we can track? So first thing is added data. If you are adding some data, then remove data, modified data, increase data, or decrease data. So all these data will be tracked under data tracking capability. Now how we can activate this data tracking in the web intelligence document, and how it affects, like, means while activating data tracking, it allows us to select a particular data set as a reference point for future changes. So this data is known as a reference data. So we need to either select one of the reference data to track the changes. So there are two options compared with the last refresh. That is, means whenever the report has been refreshed last, that will be considered as a reference data for next data refresh, while second one is compared with the data refresh from. Suppose I wanted to check the data with the yesterday's date. So I can check that I can put that date. So I compare with the data refresh from yesterday. It will use this and maintain the data refresh on the date provided. And data tracking tab, when data tracking tab tracking is activated, the show changes button becomes available and allows us to display or hide the highlighted changes. We will see in this in practically how this looks and how we can activate the data tracking changes and how we can see the data tracking. The status bar below will show the track changes activated and the type of reference data defined. So this is just a screenshot, means how we can add the data tracking. If you see analysis tab, there is a data tracking tab and there is an option track. If you click on this, then this next pop-up window comes up where it will ask, means tracking is off, tracking is on, with the compare with the last data refresh, compare with the last with the data refresh from the date we can specify. Okay, and once we wanted to once we select one of these options, then we can just click on OK and the data tracking will get activated. Now so this is an example where the data tracking is activated, and in the first refresh the data was displayed for quarter 1 and quarter 2, while next when tracking data tracking activated and we filter out for the quarter Q1 and Q2, the data Q3 as well, just was displaying the data for Q4. So all of the data for Q1, Q2 and Q3 will be striked out in the next refresh as data tracking changes is activated. If we see this is all striked out, that means this data is being deleted from the current data. So whatever the strike data is from the reference data set, current data will be like enabled only. Okay, what are the functions specific to data tracking? Means how we can use different functions for data tracking. Formula language can be used to include calculation based on the data changes. So to display reference data set in the report, ref value can be used to create a formula or variable. So this is one function which can be used for to create a formula or variable. Ref value date. This is another function which will return the date of the reference data used for tracking. And what are the security for data tracking? The data tracking feature provides two security options. So one is right to view and but not modify the data tracking. Right to view data tracking and use the interface elements for data, and enabled for use. So this is allow users to see the tracked changes but does not give them access to the user interface elements for future. Enable to change the display format, allows the users to see the tracked changes and have access to the user interface elements for the future, but they cannot change the display format. So these are the two options which are available for data tracking: enable for use, unable to change the display format. Now coming to lesson 2, what are the additional report functions which are being used or which we can use while developing the reports? First one is a report filter or ranking override. So means we can add filter to the report or ranking. So sometime there may be some situations where we don't want filter to be applied or ranking, we just want all the data. So at that time means we can override this with the NoFilter function. So see, means we may need a calculation that includes both the data that displays data and the data that is present in the data provided but not currently displayed in the table. So how we can achieve this? By forcing web intelligence to ignore a report file filter or ranking that is applied to an object or variable in the data provider. Means we can ignore the report filter or ranking, use NoFilter function to override report filter or ranking. It includes all the values of a variable in the data provider in the calculations, even if it does not display the table or block. So if you see, this is expression, syntax is expression output type, no filter, and then you'll just give an expression in a bracket. So this is no filter sum of sales revenue. So it will sum for all the sales revenue, no matter means what is the filter or what is the ranking is applied. We'll see example. So this is an example which will section on year with the store name and sales revenue. So it is been ranked for top 3 store name revenue. So if you see, these first 3 rows are top 3. So now whenever we sum, we can get this sum value for this 3 only. But what if I want to need a sum for other stores as well? So at that time you can use, see, means no filter sum of sales revenue. This will give all the sales revenue minus sum of sale revenue, that means this value. So it will give the data or sum for other stores. Now if I want to get sum for all the stores, then I can just simply say no filter and bracket sum of sales revenue. That means override ranking, override filter, or ignore filter, override ranking. I just need our total sales revenue. So that will come with this function. So this is the use of no filter. Then coming to the running sum function. So this is one of the several running aggregate functions available for calculating data in the web intelligence. It will aggregate the data one by one. How it we will see it practically as well. Now if you see, what are other running aggregate function: RunningAverage, RunningCount, RunningMin, and RunningMax. So for syntax for running sum is like number, then running sum of measure, row, column, reset dimension. So while measure, this refers to any measure objects in the data provider. Row or column refers to the calculation direction, means whether we wanted to total running row wise or column wise. Reset dimensions refers to the list of dimensions used to reset running sum. This is an optional parameter. So if you see this example, state with the there is a break on state, that is then year, store name, and sales revenue. So this last column, which is about running total. So this means how this running total function is like this: running sum in bracket and then measure. So what is running total? So in running total, first value come as is. The second value will be added to the first value, that comes this 3238292, and then if this value will get added to this, that becomes 4574. So this will be get added to the previous one. So whatever this value is coming, that will get added to here. The total will again added to here. It will display here like this. So this is a running total. The same way we can apply for running average, running min, and running max functions, running count as well. Okay, coming to the data provider SQL functions. So including the SQL code used to retrieve the information from the database can be useful for IT troubleshooting. Means suppose we wanted to fix some of the issues come up, means at that time maybe we wanted to check the SQL code behind the report. So at that time we can just get this SQL code by using this function as string data provider SQL or DP. So DP is the nothing but the data provider SQL functions return the SQL generated by a data provider. So data provider of query 1 selects return select country from country.city from country. If the data provider SQL select is select country.city from country. So this is, if this is the data provider query, then it will return the same in the data provider of query 1 result. Now prompt functions. So it is very important while when we are developing reports, users are key points, like means they need a report based on their requirements. They need some user parameters to be having the input parameters, and they will, once they enter the input parameters, the report will get displayed like that. So at that time, we need to say means we need to show the input parameters which user have entered. So that at that time means we will see means how user responses can be displayed. So prompt summary is one function which will return the prompt text and user response of all prompts in a document. So syntax string prompt summary. So prompt summary is one function that can be used, which will display the user responses, their string and their values which they have entered. Then query summary function. In the query summary function, it will not only include the prompt summary but also details about the objects included in the query that can affect the query results and the performance. So it will return, the query summary function will return the information about the queries in the document. So suppose there is some queries used and we wanted to see which objects is retrieving this data, or which query is giving this data. So at that time means it is useful means to get use the query summary function. So at the time of fixing some of the critical issues, we may need to check the query field query of that particular object. So that time you can use query summary function. Coming to the user response function. So this is user response functions returns the response of to a prompt. So whatever the prompt we are having in the input parameters. So when user enters some value, that whatever the response they gives, that will be recorded in this string user response. That will be DP prompt string VPC and index. So DP is the data provider, prompt string is the prompt text, and index tells the functions to return the database primary keys of the prompt values. Okay, so this is all about the functions, additional reporting functions. Let's go to the some of the questions related to this unit. So first question is about the data tracking, means what happens after data tracking is activated. Okay, then next question is when you create a formula using a ref value function, display the reference data in the set in your report. What does formula return? Okay, it's about the ref value function. And the last one is which function should be used to concatenate prompted filter values with the report title. Okay, so these are the questions and let's see the answers. The first question is about the data tracking, why it has been activated. So the answers are: a second microcube is created whenever the data tracking is activated. The document contains approximately twice as much data whenever the data tracking is activated. The next question, when you create a formula using ref value function, display the reference data set in your report. What does the formula return? The value of the reference data for the measure where present. Okay, so ref value will just return the value of the particular reference data set. And which function should be used to concatenate prompted filter values with the report title? So user response is the functions which we can use to concatenate user prompted filter with the title, report title. Okay, so this is all about unit 8. I hope you have understood this concept. If you have any questions, then please put it in a comment section. I will be happy to answer it. If you like my video, then please like it. Please subscribe to my channel so that you will get to know about my next videos. Thank you for watching.